Hello everyone, I'm back, and as I said in the previous video, I would explain more on a deeper level of the meaning of the name Israel. Now, to understand this, I gotta give you a little bit of backstory. And starting off, I want to explain Rebecca. Now, tells Israel to put hair in his hand and gives him like deer meat to go to his father Isaac and make him look, or make him not look, because Isaac is blind, or he has bad vision is what I mean. So Israel has meat and he has hair on his hand to mimic Esau, his brother, known as Edom. But to give this backstory, we have to bring up a verse from the book of Jubilees, chapter 19, verse 16, 18, and 20. Now, starting at 19, now I'm going to clarify this. The church doesn't want people, or at least they don't use the book of Jubilees, and I'll tell you what, it's good that they don't, only on the point that if they used the book of Jubilees, it would destroy their lives. It would unravel them if they used the book of Jubilees or even the book of Jasher and explained it correctly. It would destroy them. That's why they don't want these books to be known to you. Now, the book of Jubilees, chapter 19, verse 16, Abraham goes to Rebekah. He doesn't go to his son, he goes to his son's wife. And he knows that she loves Israel, his grandson, the brother and twin of Esau. Now, Isaac loved Esau more. And Abraham did not he loved Esau, even though it says he hates Esau. It doesn't mean he actually hates him physically or anything. It just means he doesn't approve of how Esau's personality is and how he lives his life. That's what he hates. He hates his deeds. He hates how Esau chooses to live. But he loves Israel, and he teaches Israel. That's why Israel, you find out in Genesis, Israel's always with Abraham more than his father. You know, he's even sleeps with his grandfather. We all slept with our grandfather. We all know that's just a family thing as children. So Abraham was really close to Israel. He was teaching Israel. Now, in Jubilees chapter 19, verse 16, we see Abraham coming up to Rebekah, telling him, I know you love Israel just as I do. And Israel is going to be this promised seed that the father promised would be an heir to me. Everyone thinks it's Isaac. It's not Isaac, because even though Isaac is the second child of Abraham's, sperm, whatever, seed, but Isaac is like this in between Abraham and his grandson Israel. Israel becomes the heir. Israel becomes the one to take that baton and run with it. So that's why the name Israel becomes the covenant name and a connection to the Father. So he basically tells Rebekah to watch over him and that the father would have future for Israel and wants everything to happen through him. Then Isaac, who loves Esau, gets blinded in a sense, right? He loses vision, but not completely blind, because he wants to give the blessing to Esau, because he's a hunter. He loves Esau more in that way than Israel, was just better at being obedient, doing the tents, learning the language, learning the knowledge, things like that. So he thought, Israel's not going to be that great. He doesn't know how to hunt. He doesn't know how to defend himself. Esau does. So that's where Isaac's mind was going. And then that's why his eyes was dimmed, because just as the father hardened the Pharaoh's heart, he made Isaac's eyes go. So he couldn't physically see who he was going to bless, because his heart was towards Esau. So the point to that is, if the Father wants something to be done in your life, There's no stopping that because his will reigns supreme. He's going to have it done one way or another. So that's something we have to just, whether we like it or love it, that's just the facts. Um, and then verse 18 is just the concept that he it talks about the blessing. Israel becomes a blessing unto the earth, meaning all nations. So that's a future prophecy, not with Israel individually, and not with just his like blood lineage. No, it's a prophecy that all who come under the name Israel, who are grafted on, are going to be blessings onto the Gentiles. Well, how would the Gentiles receive Israel as a blessing? We're not talking about Israel now in the Middle East, because they bow to a wall. That's not true children of Israel. We all know that. So the true children of Israel is those who, again, recognize the words of the prophets, follow the 10 laws Moses brought down on 2 tablets, follow the commandments such as no more Jacob, but say his name is Israel. That's a commandment. And to judge oneself in their heart, and to judge others, to be a shepherd, a guide, a caretaker to everyone's hearts. That's how iron sharpens iron. We have to judge what's wrong and then tell the person what they need to do that's right. So to tell someone what they need to do, the first part of that process is to call them out on what they're doing wrong. That's called to judge. So we have to understand in this world and stop, saying different things. Say what it is. It's to judge. So right now the Gentiles would have no introduction to the word if the Father never gave his only Son into the world, who was Israel. So all those who follow in, again, that path inherit this name Israel. So it's very important we understand that. And then it says in verse 20, Israel will be a possession. Now we've seen in other parts of the Bible, I know it is, where he says, I have Israel as a possession, meaning they are mine. I am their father. They will be my people, my children. This never changes. Why are we saying we're Christians, Catholic, Jew, and all this other stuff when he makes it very clear he would be the father of a people who would recognize the name Israel, call themselves Israel. So that's his people who recognize they are children of Israel through faith and works. But then continuing into now Genesis 27:27, where Rebekah does this with Israel. Israel goes to his father, gives him the meat, has the hair on his hands, and Isaac says, are you truly my son? So he touches his hands to verify, because he doubts that that's truly Esau first. And then he
comes close and touches his neck.
And then
at which they put hair on the neck.
So yeah, and then he has to verify that it's Israel, and he has to verify it's Esau. So he does these things to Israel, and then he says, well, you must be him, so I'll give you this blessing, and then the blessing is every nation shall bow. So if we go into that verse, it says, let your mother's sons bow down to you. Again, he's thinking he's talking to Esau. So that would mean Israel and those who follow in Israel's ways would be the ones to bow down to Esau, which represents the Gentiles. So he's saying, let your mother's sons bow down, but his twist is the Gentiles are to bow down to the children of Israel, the true children of Israel. Remember, they're of any race and culture, skin color, whatever. They're of mix. So these are the true children of Israel through faith and works, scattered throughout all the nations. Because it says, you know them by their fruits, not by their appearance. Anyways, to try to get this short, sorry folks, but he basically gives the blessings. All nations shall bow. You shall be Lord over your brethren. You'll have the fatness of the earth and all this stuff, so you'll rule over everything. Then Esau comes, and then he hears Esau's voice. He recognizes now that he just blessed Israel, the one he didn't want, the son he didn't want blessed. So then Esau says, well, give me a blessing too. He gives him a curse. The curse is he, as long as he's under Israel, because Israel's Lord, his brother is now Lord over him. And so as long as he's under Israel's shadow and follows in Israel's ways, he'll be protected and okay. But he says, in this curse, you shall cut Israel from off your neck. We have done that. We have cut the Father from off of us. That's what happened after the crucifixion when he scattered Israel, and now we're in such a state of depravity. It's a horrible time because we have no guidance anymore because he cut us off. And that's why the return of the king, the return of the so-called Messiah, that's what that's about, is a person who would come to guide us, teach us. And that goes into Jeremiah. No, it's Amos 9:14, where he says, I will restore Israel from captivity. Well, this is referring to how he would, he scattered us into the nations. We are now, as it says in Leviticus 26, we are under Gentile rule. We have to do sin because we can't break away from it to do what's right because we can't rise up against the Gentiles. This is called captivity. So once we start rising up, once we start calling out the sin in people, that's when we start breaking out of captivity. And people, it's coming soon. You're not going to be vanished from this earth. You have a duty to be your brother and sister's keepers. You are going to be part of this. And you better step up to the plate if you want that blessing, because it's a work to receive this reward. It's not just given just because you believe. There's a work to this. You have to be able to be hated to preach the word so that people their hearts can change. And it's not easy for a person to change. They're going to fight you tooth and nail to hold on to things that make them happy, that is comforting to them. It's hard for people to change, but that's the fight. And then in Jeremiah 31:1, that was, I believe, how the Father says he is a father to his people, that the children of Israel are his people. Again, going back to that possession concept. He is the God of the children of Israel. So again, what is the revival about? Is the revival about just bringing all people, Christians, Catholics, Mormons, whatever, just leaving them like that? Or are they to unite under this name? That's how it's supposed to be. You're to unite under that name. The name Israel is not a name of a location or a name of a city. It's a name of a believers. So it's a covenant and it's a unity understanding of a name that unites us with God. And then the Romans 14:11. That one was, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. To what? Not just that God exists. Everyone knows, most people know God exists in some form or another, whether they call God universe or whatnot. They know of an entity concept. So what they're saying is every knee shall bow, every language shall confess that he is the Lord, King, and God of the children of Israel. That's why it says in the Old Testament, these are my people. Out of all the families of the children of Adam, I have given you this name Israel, and you are to go out to all nations, bring them in to be grafted in this manner so that they can be given this blessing and this promise. So, folks, a lot of the churches taught you to read Israel is like a bloodline thing or is only an inheritance thing. No, it never was. Because he says in the Bible, there's many that were children of Israel, but were cut off. So it doesn't matter if you're born as a child of Israel, or in this day and age, as we call a Jew. It doesn't matter if you're born as it. It matters that you follow in the footsteps of his teachings, that he says he puts every word in the mouth of his prophets, live by every word. So right there, we know that if we follow the teachings, and where does his teachings come from, worked manifested wise, is through the mouth of the prophets. That's where we have to have the faith in. We don't have faith in just, oh, he's a God somewhere in the sky. No, we have faith that he is in the body. He puts his word out of the body, and that's why we don't know, okay, well, we have to test everyone to see, do they line up with how he worked in the prophets, how he spoke? One mind, speak the same thing. This is not something that's just, oh, well, that was just Old Testament. Now let's focus on something new. Even Emmanuel says, there's nothing new under the sun. I'm coming to fulfill what should have been fulfilled by the Pharisees' teachings. But the Pharisees went astray and caused chaos. So they were not fulfilling in the footsteps of Israel. So the Pharisees were not children of Israel. They were Gentiles. Okay? And then Revelation 22:20 again says how every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess to the King, the Father, the Lord of Israel. So it's important to plug this name into the Bible and read it correctly. Lord, we know, because it's been used in the New Testament, where it says, if you're the King of Israel, come down off that cross. Well, King, Lord, same word, right? Ruler of authority, ruler over someone, ruler over something. So, Lord, King of Israel. God, well, Emmanuel says, whichever one says Jesus, but I say Emmanuel because that was what he was called by Isaiah. That's what we were supposed to call him in Matthew, Emmanuel. So he says Father. He doesn't say God a lot. He says Father, like he's a child and God is his father. Well, that's how the prophets saw it. There was no difference between Emmanuel and the prophets. They saw this family relationship with him. So change God to Father. Father of who? Father, what was his name of his people? Israel. We need to bring this name back to remembrance. We need to start teaching this name. We need to start waking people up from being asleep and dead, in a state of death, resurrecting them in mind and heart to what this name means and why it's so important that we need to say it and believe it for the Father's mercy to really come back, because right now he's pretty upset. So I'll come back in another video and maybe start explaining what I said about how we have a duty and we won't just be vanished into thin air like some people believe. Because I will tell you this, he says, he who scatters shall gather. And he says, I will give you the promisings of Abraham, which is what? A physical location, the Middle East. He doesn't say your home is going to be in your death. Because he's not the God of the dead. He says he's the Father of the living. And the word is living word, and it must be in living vessels. And we have a duty as the light to bring light onto the darkness, the dead, to bring them to light. So there is a work here. If you think you're just going to escape it by hoping you don't have to deal with things and you don't have to be responsible and you don't have a responsibility to correct people and you maybe don't want to deal with the conflicts or arguments, well, I'm sorry, but that's what it means to be a child of Israel, is to struggle and prevail. So let's start prevailing, shall we?